I am here. It is May 12th. I'm Grandma Tiger. Um, I'm kind of laughing to myself because this is the what did I learn kind of video that people have asked me for. And I learned that you need to double check to make sure the camera is on because it wasn't. So I yammered on for a while and yeah, it wasn't on. So here I go again. Welcome to my channel. You are going to see this kind of really crazy, unprofessional stuff a lot because I am not a professional. No one is shocked. Um, so I've had a test run through, so pretty exciting. I am going to regather my notes and go over the things that I did already talk about. So what I'm going to do first is go over some of the statistics that people ask me about, like how long have how many miles you put on your car, how long were you gone, but how long you were gone, I forgot to figure out until it's a lot. It's a lot. Um, but when I started the trip, the February trips through the trip to Carlsbad, I put 1,822 miles on the vehicle. In March, we went to several different places and I put 1,921 miles on the vehicle. And in April, I put 3,028 miles on the vehicle. And now I'm looking at the camera thinking it's crooked. Hold on. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just me. Again, not a professional. Do not try this at home. Actually, I am trying it at home. So total, since I started the whole adventure, 6,803 miles driven, 5 national parks visited. There were a couple more I was going to do, but I went too early in the season. There wasn't that much open. So what I'm going to start with, I think, is, well, first of all, I decided to do this video because people said, don't forget, what did you learn? What are the cool things you figured out? So I started jotting those down on this piece of paper and it got a little crazy. And then I summarized it onto this piece of paper, added this piece of paper and this piece of paper. So you're going to get a bunch of stuff. One of my first things to talk about is planning the trips. Even though I was going to wing it most of the time, it didn't have concrete dates I had to hit for a lot of it. I started out with, where am I going? When do I have to be? When are my dates I have to be home? When are my dates I have to be at a certain place at a certain time? So that's starts out on that kind of paper and it ends up on the calendar so I can see visually where am I, where am I going? Where do I have to be when? And I've gotten it down now to the point where I've got May and June planned. And it's down here. It's like, what date? When am I leaving? Where am I staying? That's got all my confirmation numbers. I am staying in May and June at scheduled stops. In June, especially because I'll have the grandkids with me. They'll be traveling with me. And I want to make sure that I have reservations because while I can just stop at a truck stop or Flying J or Love's or whatever, I don't think that would be a good choice for traveling with them because we're going to need to put up a tent. There are a bunch of different kinds of travel that I do. I've realized, I have learned. I do car camping by myself where I sleep in my vehicle. I've got it very self-contained. I enjoy that very, very much. I enjoy that quite a bit. I like doing that while I'm on my way to visit friends and family to see the sights along the way. Really enjoyed that. I do occasionally road trip with other people. I did fly from here to Virginia, and then we road tripped. My daughter-in-law and myself and the grandkids road tripped down to San Antonio during their spring break. Enjoyed that a lot. Stayed at hotels along the way. It was just easier because we were on a kind of a tight schedule. I also road tripped with Bob down to Mesa, Arizona for spring training for a week, and we stayed in an Airbnb. And then the next kind of camping we'll be doing is camping in a national park campground at Estes Park in June. That's an annual trip with my friends. And I think it's going to be interesting. I'm going to see if I can find pictures of the various campers I've had along the way, because we did pick up a new one. Well, actually, we purchased a new one. I need to pick it up next week. So I'll be driving out to Virginia next week to get it and then driving it back. So a bunch of different kinds of camping that I do. And I like all of them. It's fun sometimes to be with other people on the road. But I completely enjoy being by myself. I don't have any problem with being alone or lonely on the road. So I like it because I don't have to worry about making sure everybody is happy, worrying about when to have dinner and stuff, because I can just eat what I want when I want to. So that's that is also, very fun for me because I can just like pull over to historical markers and stop anytime I want to without worrying about if anyone else in the car will find that interesting. Another kind of statisticky thing is what is the lowest temperature I've stayed in. And the lowest temperature I stayed at, it got down to 23. I did purchase a indoor outdoor thermometer, and I hang one part of it outside of my car, and then I can see what the lowest temperature in 24 hours had been. It's kind of an interesting little data point for myself. I learned that 23 is completely doable. I have a system of, after I pull into a spot, putting it my WeatherTech window coverings, a product I love. I've got a few of them on my list of products I love. The WeatherTech's definitely one, because I could put them up, and when it's cold out, I put them the shiny side into the cabin of the vehicle, and then when I'm getting about ready to go to bed, I turn on my heat on my car, just warm up the inside of the car, turn it off, get ready for bed, pop into my bed, and I stay toasty warm. I think part of that is because the bed is foam, and it is very comfortable. I've got the foam mattress, a mattress pad, a little blanket, which is, I think, key to keeping warm, and then a sheet, then me, then a doubled down comforter, and I'm toasty all night. I don't have to worry about it. The hard part is the morning, because there's two reasons. A, I'm not a morning person. B, it's cold. So I get out of bed, quickly turn on the heat in the car again, blast it, get back into bed while the cabin warms up, and then I can get dressed. One of the things I did sort out was, if it's chilly outside, I did bring a 12-volt electric blanket, kind of a lap-size blanket. And I can use that to heat up my bed at night if I want to before I get in. But I think the better use of it for me is that I put the clothes that I'm going to wear the next morning into that. So folded into the blanket. And then in the morning when I turn on my key to get the car warmed, I plug that in. And then I go back to bed for, 10 minutes or so till it warms up enough in the car. And then I don't have to put on cold jeans because the blanket has preheated them. It has been, I thought it was a clever idea. It made me happy. And on the subject of clothing, I did pack too many clothes. I don't know what I thought I was doing. I had no idea why I thought I needed that many pieces of clothing. I have no idea why. I wasn't going very many places. I didn't need very many varieties of outfit. There was no one I had to impress. I did bring several different weights of jackets, which was smart because it was cold. These next trips, of course, I'll leave out the heavy winter jacket and just bring, the layers that I normally bring. But yeah, I did pack too many clothes. I did also lose a Rocky Mountain National Park hat, my favorite hat. Lesson learned: when you're leaving a shower at a state park, double check the hooks because you've probably hung your hat on it. And so somebody now in New Mexico um, found my hat. I hope they enjoy it. It was a real nice one. And I'm a little sad about it, but that's okay. Could be worse. Um, let's see, other things that I learned. I learned that I brought pretty much the right amount of food. I didn't, I did okay with it. I had everything in a cooler, and I did have um, those blue ice things in there, and I did bring a couple of leftover packages of, just leftovers from our freezer. I did use those to kind of keep the cooler cool, and then when they started to defrost, I stuck them in my Hot Logic. Just an awesome product again. It's one of my favorites, products I like a lot, because I would just stick that into, the leftover container to the Hot Logic, head down the road with it plugged in, and by the time I got to camp, I had a hot meal already waiting for me, which is nice because I really don't like getting to camp and then having to do all cooking, um, especially that first day. So I did learn that, and I did bring a 4-gallon jug of water, and I picked 4 gallons instead of a traditional 5-gallon just because it's easier for me to lift in and out of the car when I need to refill it. That has a USB rechargeable pump where you basically just stick the one end of the pump into the, the water container, press a button, and you have running water. Another product that I loved. I'm just kind of really enjoying having that and not having to schlep a bunch of different containers. Other things that I learned. I did learn that people ask me a lot about how I make myself feel secure when I'm alone. It's a solo female traveler thing. And I do carry some things that are handy to defend myself with. I'm not going to go into specifics about that. I do carry bear spray in case I am in areas that have bears. I make sure I have that with me when I'm outside of my vehicle. So I feel that those things are there. But what I depend on a lot is just my gut instinct. If I pull up to a place and I'm thinking this is where I'm going to stay the night because this was the plan, and I don't feel comfortable there or something is just off about that space, I just move because I've already determined what my plan B is. I always have a plan B and most times a plan C. People that know me now that I like to say we start with plan A, but there's 26 letters of the alphabet. So if you have to change your plan, it's not a big deal. And I've decided that, if I'm not comfortable someplace, I could tough it out and just, lock my doors and put up my window coverings and just stay there. But I wouldn't sleep well. I'd be tossing and turning and wondering what I was hearing outside, and it would just not be a comfortable night, being worried. So if it doesn't feel right, I just move. And I've done that twice because it just wasn't feeling comfortable for me. Something was off. So I think as women, we've been told, well, my generation, be polite, be nice. If someone comes up to you and talks to you, you have to talk to them. You have to be nice to them. You have to be polite. But if they're giving off any kind of vibe that you don't like, no, you don't. You can leave. You can just say, I'm out of here, and just leave. Not worry about hurting their feelings or making them think you're rude. Who cares? If you're not comfortable, you don't have to keep yourself in that situation. So I think that is my first line of defense, is my gut instinct on, and I tend to trust myself pretty well. I'm a pretty good judge of character, I like to think, but that is just something that I feel strongly about, and I think I wish more people would trust their instinct. Another thing that is for my security is car emergency supplies. I have a air compressor with me that can inflate my tires in case they get low and I'm not near a gas station. And I have a jumper battery pack that if my car battery dies, I can use it to jump start my car. So I feel secure knowing that I have those two things, the battery pack, the jumper thing. We've actually used it a couple times on other people's vehicles. It's handy. It's small. It doesn't take up much space, and it gives you that sense of security that, okay, if my car dies because I accidentally leave something on and it drains the battery at night, I'm not going to have to worry about jump starting my car, which is real nice for me. I'm going to be making sure that that's charged up before my next trip. I just need to make sure it just stays charged up, so I have it. I've run into a couple of things that I wish were better while I was traveling. One was the cooler. It was working okay, but it wasn't working great. It would keep things cool enough, but not cold. So I realized, especially as the weather is getting warmer now, that I'm going to need to solve that problem. I don't like traveling with a cooler with ice cubes in it because it doesn't matter what I do, those ice cubes melt and get stuff wet. I can try and plan and as best I can, and it's still, the water will get where it doesn't belong. So I have already purchased a Set Power small 12-volt refrigerator. It's coming in time for this next trip. So I'll do a little bit of a review and how I like it and is it working kind of in the video for that trip. I am looking forward to it. The only thing is I'm not 100% sure where I'm going to put it in the vehicle itself, because it's not super tiny, but I think I have a solution to that. So I'll have to be kind of Tetrising that in just right. The other problem, I don't know if the small inconvenience was when you're traveling in a Ford Expedition, there's no place to stand up to pull your pants up. So getting dressed is a little bit of a contortionist act for me. I'm not a really small person, and the car is not really big. I can't stand up in it. So I did find that that was inconvenient for me. Not insurmountable, but definitely inconvenient. And I did purchase a Kelty Backwoods shelter that is going to be on the back of the car, or it can also be on the side of the vehicle. And that should give me enough privacy to go ahead and do that. Other things I learned on my trip was making these videos is more time consuming than you would think. Well, heaven knows you've been warned. These are not going to be professional, and they certainly aren't. Um, I am trying to learn the program a little better so they are a little bit more enjoyable to watch. This one's going to be difficult because it's just me yammering on. Um, but people that know me understand that's kind of how I am. I'm going to try to get better at that. I did also learn that I have a very interesting verbal tick. I'm not going to point it out to you. I hear it, and I'm trying to make that not, um, I'm trying to make that go away. The other thing I did learn was I really enjoy all of the types of travel that I do for different reasons. I really do love solo camping, just me and my car and just going wherever I want to and doing whatever I want to do and not having to worry about what time somebody else might be hungry, just eating when I am. But I also like traveling with other people because it's fun to, especially if they don't travel a lot, to introduce them to some of the really beautiful scenery and beautiful spaces that our country has. I will tell you, I enjoyed going to New Orleans with my grandchildren, granddaughters, and daughter-in-law, and having beignets at Cafe du Monde. That was fabulous. So that kind of thing, I love traveling and showing other people things that I'm excited about. One thing that I did overpack on is things to do to keep me busy when I'm not driving. I have, of course, been trying to go on short hikes everywhere I go, just so I can see things up close and not just from the car window. But I did pack way more books than I thought well, I packed what I thought I needed and what I thought would get me through. And I didn't do nearly as much reading as I had intended. I also brought a bunch of knitting that I didn't get to. Uh, so mainly it was just driving and walking and learning and seeing things and talking to the rangers at the parks because they're fascinating. They know so much, and um, it's fun to learn from them. So I didn't do as much. I packed more leisure time activities than I really needed to. Luckily, they didn't take too much space, although the books were kind of heavy. The couple of things I found really helpful, a couple of apps I found really helpful. Of course, I use Google Maps. Bob has my location sharing on, so he knows where I am all the way. He can follow me along on my travels, which is kind of fun. I used iOverlander and Campendium as the two apps for finding dispersed camping. I found those helpful. There's a couple of other ones I'm going to try. Freecampsites.net, I think, is one of them. So there's a few that I'm going to try. Allstays, I think. There's a couple I'm going to try on the next trip to see where I am. Now, the next trip is a little more planned out. Actually, all of May and June and July are pretty well planned out because I have, especially the June trips I'm going to have the grandkids with me, and we are going to tent camp. We are going to go drive and camp every night for 2 or 3 nights in a row, getting there and then on the way back. And I want to make sure that I have a space because while I am okay with going to plan B or C, I don't believe that they would be as thrilled about that. And I don't want to have to do that when I've got tired, hungry, cranky kids with me, while I am also tired and hungry and cranky. There are a couple of products I really enjoyed. I talked about the Hot Logic, which is basically a very tiny slow cooker. Reheats leftovers beautifully. You can cook from scratch in it. Mostly I'm just reheating things or nothing very complicated. So I love that. I love my water jug and my my USB rechargeable faucet. Those were good to have. I did order a couple of USB rechargeable light bulbs. They look like light bulbs, and you just hang them. You you don't. I hang them from the coat hooks in my car. They have a remote control, 3 different light brightnesses, and after I get into bed, I can just use the remote to turn them off. It works great. I really was glad I got the extra batteries and charger for the batteries for my camera, because I've already run out of battery once, actually twice. So having that just to be able to swap through is really good for me. I do like my Jetboil for heating my water for my tea, or I did purchase a couple of those dehydrated meals, those backpacker meals. So having the Jetboil is perfect. I do have a Coleman camping stove that I might be taking with me on my Route 66 trip in September, but I might not, because it takes up a lot of space, and honestly, the Jetboil does what I need it to do. So that's been wonderful. And I did purchase a Murphy's Outfitters bag. It's just a sling bag. You can wear it like this, or you can put it on your back and pull it to the front. It's big enough for my camera and things when I'm hiking. So I love that. I've actually been using that as my purse. Yeah, because it fits everything in there that I need, and it's very comfortable. One of the other products that I enjoy a whole lot is my Jackery 1000. They call it a solar generator, but obviously it's not noisy. It charges from your house current, charges from your car, it charges from solar. I do have solar panels, and they worked beautifully to bring that back up to 100%. I like to keep that battery topped off, because I've got all these USB chargeable things, or things that need to be plugged in. So having that has been really great. I'm not endorsed by any of these people, obviously, but they're just products that I really found super useful, and I found that I loved quite a bit. And so that's my list of that. I think kind of one of the things to note that I found is organization. It's key. I had to have a place for all of the things, because it's tight quarters, and I didn't want to be rummaging around finding stuff all the time. I didn't want to spend my time doing that. I did notice that in that small space, if I didn't put something back right away, it was, what the word I'm going to use? It was stressed me out a little bit, because now I had something that wasn't where it belonged. So I just couldn't find it easily. And because it wasn't where it was belonged, it meant it was probably in front of or on top of something that I wanted. So I had to move it anyway. So I am finding, as I fine tune this, better places to put things and categories of things to put in. I have one box that's just mainly chargers and cords. I have my camera equipment in a project bag, a knitting project bag. It's this one, in case you see it ever. This is it. It's supposed to hold a knitting project, but it's got all my camera stuff in it. And then I have another one for my computer, mouse, and cables. So, but having a spot for all of those things is important to me. And like I said, if I don't put it back, it just disrupts my flow of thought. And I think that's about all that I had notes on coming up. Well, I've still got to do videos for March and April. I had a couple of big trips in March and April that I have to put together for you guys. I'll try to get that done before I leave. that's not going to happen. I'll try to get at least some of it done before I leave. Let's be honest here. It's not going to happen. And just to wrap things up, I learned that I have really good friends and family. They're very supportive, and I'm extremely grateful for that support. And I know some of them think I'm a little bit nuts, but they love me anyway. So that's where we are. I am going to sign off now because I'm looking at my list of things to do before Tuesday, which is when I'm leaving to pick up the new camper. And yeah, that's about it. I've got a few things to do before then, but thanks for listening. If you have any questions or just stick them in the comments, I'll get to them. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys later.